Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the beginning of our process as we move towards the Gemini Full Moon, the ASALA festival. We are told that on each of the 3 days preceding the full moon, the Christ meets with the hierarchy and places a special emphasis upon a particular stanza of the Great Invocation and upon a keynote related to Gemini. The three keynotes that we have are love, resurrection, and contact. And on each of these following nights at the same time, tonight, right now it's 9 p.m. GMT, tomorrow night 9 p.m. GMT, the night after 9 p.m., and so forth for 4 nights, we're going to be emphasizing the three keynotes, and then on Thursday night at 9 o'clock, I'll lead the usual pre-full moon webinar, and we'll get more into the last sermon of the Buddha, which the Christ is said to state or preach before the assembled hierarchy at the time of the Gemini full moon. The Gemini full moon is actually at 4:11 and 27 seconds a.m. on Friday the 13th, and we will be having here from Finland an exact full moon broadcast for a service meditation that my wife Tuya will be leading. And then there will be an ASALA day that will begin at let's see, it's 11:30 finish time, so it's 8:30 a.m. GMT on that Friday morning. Also, we should be aware that the Lucis Trust, ever since 1952, has been presenting World Invocation Day, where all through the day many thousands of people are repeatedly intoning the Great Invocation, certainly every hour, and I suppose some teams are doing it constantly, with one recitation of the Great Invocation after another. So it's a very important time, a very high time of the spiritual year. It's called the Festival of the Christ, the Festival of Humanity, the Festival of Goodwill. It's a time when the great Lord, the Christ, stands before Shambhala as the representative of all of the aspiration towards goodness that humanity can produce. And this he presents in cooperation with the Buddha to Shambhala, and there is a great response. So love is in the air, and the highest quality of love is reached at this time of year. Tomorrow night we'll be emphasizing the idea of resurrection and the seventh initiation, which is a great moment in Gemini for every liberated seventh degree Chohan, such as the Christ is becoming. He reaches his high point of realization in Gemini. It's a wonderful sign, and if we have an opportunity somehow to engage in the true energy of love, wisdom, with our fellow human beings, treating them and seeing them as souls, this is the time that we can do that. It's a very full time of the heart, when the forces of reconstruction are active, accompanied, of course, by the reinforcement of the forces of restoration and enlightenment. So without further ado, I think we can get into our meditation. We will emphasize this quality of love, and we will listen, as it were, inwardly to the Christ as he sounds the very first stanza of the Great Invocation with its emphasis on light. So tonight it's the focus on love and light. So we will begin with the attitude of confidence. It's the first day of preparation, confidence that these energies are real, that they are available, that we can reach them, especially as a group, and that what we do together will make a big difference in the consciousness of humanity. We're doing our part to elevate the consciousness of humanity. So we begin by assuming an attitude of meditation, our spiritual approach, and we withdraw our consciousness from the personality and its vehicles deeply into the presence of the soul. We know we are the soul in incarnation, but we are not identified with our vehicles. They are our instruments. We rather are coming to ourselves, the true soul nature on the higher mental plane. And together, reaching out towards each other in the field of soul, we feel ourselves, each one of us, established within the field of light, spiritual love, and spiritual power. So whatever country we may be in, we are touching each other in the realm of consciousness, in the realm of soul. We are merging with each other. And our sense of ourselves is as a soul within the group soul, a deep sense of the group soul, which is consisting not only of this little meditating group, but merging in soul with all the spiritually minded people of the world. That is, the new group of world servers with their great responsibility for leading humanity into the light, and all the men and women of goodwill in whatever nation they may be found. A sense of touching them in soul, as if time and space make no difference, and that somehow we are all together and even unified as one being in this field of being consciousness. The one soul of humanity we attempt to visualize, whether the souls are in incarnation or out of incarnation. Again, it makes no difference. We realize that there is no my soul or thy soul, but only the one soul, and we unite in the great second ray mantram, naught is but me, the one great self of humanity, and the self that goes far beyond humanity itself. Naught is but me. So it's a movement towards identification with the one humanity, and we can really only do this in the state of soul, and even more in the realization of spirit. Gemini represents not only the connection of soul and personality, but also, on a higher turn of the spiral, of spirit and soul. Of course, we will work within our soul-infused minds. There is a point of tension in the mind, the group mind. we can think together. And the will aspect of the soul infuses the mind with the first ray, will to initiate, the second ray, will to unify, the third ray, will to evolve, the fourth ray, will to harmonize, the fifth ray, will to act, the sixth ray, will to cause, and the seventh ray, will to express. Together we can work in the soul-infused mind, strengthened by the will of the soul. We can work at a point of tension, from which we can together build the rainbow bridge, the Antakarana, the bridge of light. So here we all are centered in the mental unit of the group. And we will imagine, as it were, drawing up all the energies of the personality into that group mental unit. The group personality drawn up, focusing together in the group mental unit and imagining at this point of tension for each one of us the dual-colored rainbow bridge, reaching symbolically to the monastic permanent atom, the Buddhic permanent atom, the atmic permanent atom, thus touching the spiritual mind, the spiritual love, the spiritual will. And this dual-colored bridge represents for us our soul ray and personality ray. We can use these colors as seen here. First ray red, second ray indigo blue, third ray green, fourth ray yellow, fifth ray orange, sixth ray silvery rose or perhaps light blue, seventh ray violet. We feel and see imaginatively the dual-colored rainbow bridge. Connecting each one of us to this realm of planetary will, planetary love, planetary mind, and ultimately towards the world of being, the monad itself. And so we feel and see the extended rainbow bridge, and therefore the multicolored rainbow bridge of all the group, cone-like as it reaches towards the blue-white diamond. We can symbolize the monad in this way. And all of us basically in the indigo blue color, but with the multicolors of all soul and personality rays. And across this bridge of light we will project a beam of purest white light. We will use the second ray, word of power. I see the greatest light. I see the greatest light. We will sound the Om on a second ray note, a G, 3 times, and inwardly, identified as the group soul, we affirm this word of power. Mentally, I see the greatest light, while outwardly we sound the Om. And as we do this, we will feel our connection with these higher realms. And we can expect that as we go forth as a group to symbolically meet the Father through the triad will descend and meet the rising prodigal halfway. So we are as if in touch then with these higher worlds in which the spiritual hierarchy of our planet focuses. The ashrams of the masters now being primarily upon the Buddhic plane, and some upon the plane of spiritual will. So altogether, in the presence of the great light of the spiritual triad, the impersonal planetary mind, heart, and will of the planetary logos, we attempt to feel the presence of the Great White Brotherhood, the Lodge of Masters, the spiritual hierarchy of our planet. Because this is the level on which they focus, and this is the level on which we can, as a group, meet them as they more truly are, in their more essential nature. We are meditating in solidarity with the spiritual hierarchy of the planet, and we thus offer our salutations, declaring our loyalty, our co-creatorship, our intention to work with the elder brothers to express the divine plan and help to redeem the planet. So we will sound our salutations, visualizing as we do. Salutations to the Buddha, the Lord of Light and Wisdom. Salutations to the Christ, the Master of all masters, the teacher alike of angels and of men. Salutations to the triangle of masters with whom we most closely work. Master M, Master KH, Master DK. Salutations to the Master M, the head of all esoteric schools and organizations. Salutations to the Master Kutumi, whose ashram does the most to prepare for the reappearance of the Christ, the Lord Maitreya. Salutations to the Master DK, who has given us the blue books and who prepares aspirants for initiation. Salutations to the entire spiritual hierarchy of our planet. Imaginatively, we raise our thought to Shambhala, the greatest point of tension in relation to our planet, the center where the will of God is known and identified as a group soul. With deepest reverence and in all humility, we attempt to attune to the presence of Sanat Kumara, the Lord of the world, standing at the center of Shambhala. As we attune to the divine will working through him, we sound a long but silent Om, imagining the group and, in fact, all the spiritual workers imbued with his energy. A long, silent Om. May we be impressed as a group by the divine will, as much of it as we can assimilate, realizing that at this time of human crisis, it is very much the spiritual will which is needed by humanity to prepare the way for the hierarchy, their externalization, and for the Lord Maitreya. We can all do our part, no matter how small that part may seem to be. It will be significant in the great enterprise. Together we align with the spiritual qualities emanating from the three planetary rulers of the sign Gemini: Mercury, the exoteric ruler revealing the nature and interplay of the pairs of opposites, soul and personality, so they may communicate accurately. Beautiful Venus, the esoteric ruler, uniting the pairs of opposites, drawing them together in a fusion, so we may truly have the soul-infused personality and the earth, the hierarchical ruler. It is the field of service. And if some of us are familiar with the labors of Hercules, the poetry of which was written by the Tibetan and the commentary by Alice Bailey, we realize how much the work of service is related to the candidate in Gemini once he recovers from adherence to false teachers and finds his own soul to be the teacher. The earth, the field of service, becoming a sacred planet very much through the ministrations of the Lord of the constellation Gemini, and Venus cooperating. And then we raise our group consciousness even further to the solar logos, expressing through our sun and the solar system, and we attempt to feel that great second ray of the solar logos, the God of love wisdom, the consuming fire of love, pouring through every one of us, every being in this solar system, through all the planets, through Shambhala, through every monad, every soul, every personality, every tiniest atom and particle. The great God of love wisdom, so connected with Gemini, he whose personality is on the second ray and whose soul also is on the second ray, and maybe eventually the second ray monad. A great heart center in a cosmic logos. And every day the sun rises, we see the representation of this mighty power of love. And we focus our imagination then on the constellation Gemini relating, radiating, giving us the light of interplay. As Master D8 tells us, this is a line of light beams, revealing that which opposes, or the basic duality of manifestation, the relationship ultimately here of spirit and of form, not just of soul and personality. It is the conscious light of that relationship between spirit and form. These energies are growing now. They are here more intensely. And so we open ourselves to the feel of the energy quality of Gemini, the pillars of wisdom, the entry to the great temple, to the Blue Lodge, ultimately taking us to the great star Sirius, its great relation to the second ray of love wisdom, and to other rays via Mercury, Venus, and the Earth, the fourth, fifth, third, and even second rays through the Earth. These very pure and high energies. And we attempt to realize the connection of this Gemini energy to the forces of reconstruction, making possible the rebuilding of human civilization and the planet according to the plan indicated by the forces of restoration at Aries. The entire process pursued in an illumined manner, with the light shed by the forces of enlightenment at Taurus. And that mantram for Gemini, so potent, which we will continually ponder upon as the week goes on. I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. More and more we must ponder on these words as the days go by, realizing, as John the Baptist did, that I must decrease that he may increase. The waxing higher self which we truly are. And so for each of us, may we, identified as the higher self, grow in radiance, and power, love, as these days go by. So we truly know what the self is, and do not confuse it with the other self, which is simply its instrument. All of us then truly uniting in the self we are, and not confused by the lower ego. And when we do, we will find ourselves one together in the light and in the love. And our light as a group self will grow. And we can recognize that the group personality is the other self, and we are the higher source of waxing light. I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. And now, the Christ and the Buddha, they also participate together in this service. If anyone has read the sections from the externalization of the hierarchy, we see how amazingly these two great lords cooperated together at these great festivals to make it possible for the forces of light to prevail in the great test which the Second World War was. Without them, the result might have been very different. So we focused our meditative attention on the Christ and the Buddha, realizing their brotherhood as they represent the West and the East, and the spiritual union of these two hemispheres of the earth. The Buddha for the East, the Christ for the West. The Lord of Light and the Lord of Love. Two brothers inseparable. Initiated together in Atlantis, we are told, taking the 3rd degree, and together to complete the 7th degree during the latter part of the age of Aquarius. Two brothers, always together, inspiring humanity. We try to realize the sense in which, before humanity, they stand for the constellation Gemini, for the brothers in the light. And we are preparing for the day of the full moon itself, a few days from now, when the Christ preaches the last sermon of the Buddha before the assembled hierarchy and before the hearts and minds of all human beings. So we will prepare by pondering each day on a few words from that last sermon. And the words tonight are as follows. The words of the Buddha: Herein, O Ananda, let a brother, as he dwells in the body, so regard the body that he, being strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful, may, whilst in the world, overcome the grief which arises from the body's cravings. These potent words of the Buddha, exhorting us to be strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful, that we, even while we are in the world, may overcome the grief which arises from the body's cravings. So affirm in yourself the fact that you can be strenuous, thoughtful, and mindful in the overcoming of the grief which arises from the body's cravings, and resolve to be so. Master Morya called the Buddha the lion, and we can see and understand why it was so. And thus we offer our profound gratitude to the Buddha for all he has done to illumine humanity. And then we focus our attention on the Lord Maitreya, the Christ. And with the utmost heartful attentiveness of which we are capable, we listen inwardly, imagining that we hear the Christ sounding the great invocation. We allow a period for the silent absorption of his imagined sounding, because on each of the 3 days of preparation prior to the full moon, the Christ is said to speak the great invocation alone. So we, as if, listen to him. And again, listening inwardly with great care, we imagine the Christ and the entire hierarchy intoning the first stanza of the great invocation, which you see before you on the screen, and you know it. But this is the Christ and the entire hierarchy intoning this, obviously not in English, but for us it can be in English translated. And we contemplate the deep significance of these words. The depth and the power of that group sounding are immense. And it is done, we are told, every day before the full moon of Gemini. And we are participating imaginatively in that hierarchical sounding. We imagine the illumination of humanity and the planet. We see an enlightened human race and our planet as a great station of light. As the forces of reconstruction are liberated and the shrine of man's living is rebuilt. In all this, we are deeply participating as individuals and especially as groups. This is a great subjective work. We are working together to augment, to reinforce that which the hierarchy intends. On each of the 3 days before the Gemini full moon, Christ and the hierarchy are said to emphasize the distinct keynote in imagined consort with the Christ and the spiritual hierarchy. We will together, as a group, aligned with our brothers and sisters in the new group of world servers and the men and women of goodwill, we will together contemplate the first keynote described by Master DK as follows. The keynote of love, in its hierarchical sense, free from sentiment, emotion, and personal emphasis, a love that sacrifices and understands, that acts with strength and decision, and that works on behalf of the whole, and not in the interests of any group or individual. A love which is hierarchical, free from sentiment, that Kama-manasic mixture, free from emotion and personal emphasis, a love that sacrifices and understands, that acts with strength and decision, and that works on behalf of the whole, and not in the interests of any group or individual. We remember of Gemini, it is said, I serve my brother. And lastly, I serve the whole. We envision this type of love growing in ourselves and in all human beings. And we imagine how we may apply in practical service for the upliftment of humanity this type of hierarchical love. This love must flow through us, the real thing, some dim reflection of that which a great seventh-rate Shohan realizes at the high point of realization in Gemini, but still stronger than that which we usually experience. Uniting, beautifying, harmonizing, hierarchical love that can solve all the problems generated by the glamorous astral body and the elusive mind and our myopic actions. A great solution that we can cultivate more intensely during these days. In cooperation with the great ones who are intensely present during these days, helping to link the highest and the lowest through the medium of soul consciousness. We rise above our usual considerations. We do not get trapped in the mundane even as we perform the mundane, but the great love infuses us and we express it to each other, to all in hierarchical friendship. Hierarchy is friendship. What is a friend, said Pythagoras? A friend is another self. We can see how closely he was related to the Gemini energy. So let us be inspired by this great sign, by the labors of the Christ and the Buddha and the entire hierarchy, with whom we affirm our solidarity, seeking to identify with them and to merge our purposes with their purpose. May we drop away all petty things as we do this. And we imaginatively merge with the great ones. And together we bless the world in silence. Blessings to all humanity, in the body, out of the body, to all. It was the Christ who taught the use of the hands in blessing, and of course the Buddha knew and taught this. It is a Gemini way of relating through the hands of blessing. As we pause then for a moment of appreciation of the illumined, loving energies of the constellation Gemini, and we feel ourselves imbued with these energies which are growing in strength as the full moon approaches. What a privilege it is over these days to be in contact with these great redeeming energies through which the world can be reconstructed. So let us be equal to the opportunity offered to us and not forget and be available for the reception of these energies no matter what we are doing so we can distribute them. And so, as if in union with the Christ, the Buddha, the hierarchy, and all the disciples in the world, we sound together the first stanza of the great invocation, sensing the redemptive union of light and love. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. Friends, let us hold the point of tension. I'm so sorry for the very short notice of this meditation, but, well, if I can blame it on Mercury retrograde, I will, but at least tomorrow night at 9 p.m. GMT, we go on and meditate on the keynote of resurrection. And then the next night, Wednesday night, we meditate upon the keynote of contact. So I hope you will join us and continue to build this point of tension as we move towards this supremely high expression of the energy of love. Maybe a dual energy, love, wisdom. Thank you very much for coming today on such short notice. And we will persist to build together towards the great work of Gemini, remembering World Invocation Day on Thursday, the 12th. So many blessings, and let's approach together. Bye-bye.